Welcome to Alchemy Uncensored, a podcast presented by Alchemy Search, a team of professional financial and tax recruiters. Our podcast is dedicated to providing valuable insights into the financial and tax sector of the UAE by discussing the challenges and opportunities faced by employers and job seekers. Alchemy Uncensored is the perfect podcast for those looking to gain a competitive edge in the finance, accounting and tax industry of the UAE. Stay informed on the latest job market trends, developments and conversations to stay ahead of the game. Tune into our podcast to be part of this insightful conversation. Hello, fellow alchemists. Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. 2024, big year ahead. The one favor I would ask, if you can, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast today. Hi, everyone. I'm Ciarán McBreen, the founder of Alchemy Search. And today I'm joined by Ciarán McBreen, who is a certified executive and performance coach with Limitless. He is a school wellbeing advisor, an author, and a mental health podcast host. Through the work Ciarán does within corporate organizations, elite athletes, and schools, Ciarán has created a platform for thousands of people to flourish, develop, self-believe, feel empowered, and reach their true potential. Ciarán has sparked the life into the lives of many. In today's episode, we'll be discussing how staff wellbeing impacts performance, common challenges faced in balancing work and personal life, signs of mental health struggles in staff, workplace culture strategies to support wellness and performance, and more. So, Ciarán, great to have an Irishman in here. How are you getting on?
I'm great, Conor. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Perfect. Well, we got there in the end. So look, Ciarán, I guess before we start, quite keen just for you to give a bit of an overview, of yourself, your background, how you've ended up here in Dubai.
Yeah, Conor, I've been here since 2012. I came over first to work in a school. I was a PE teacher. I worked in education for 18 years, head of sports, and absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Loved helping others. And for me, my academic journey was a journey in itself. I hated school myself, so ended up being a teacher was a strange one because I used to look at my own teachers and think, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, PE teaching now, you're getting a bit away from that.
That's
anyway.
I suppose so. But school wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't academic. I didn't work hard enough. I couldn't access the curriculum. I didn't understand how to learn and how to study.
Yeah.
And part of that was the system. Part of that was the way we were taught back at home in Ireland. Part of that was the examination, that everything was assessed with 100% exam. But part of it was my own learning style and not having that work ethic that I needed to have. So from there, I was very lucky. I went to a third level education in Cavan Institute. And a government funded initiative to help people who didn't do too well in schools. And I thrived.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was reading about sport. I was reading about the anatomy. I was reading about performance. And I suppose that's where my coaching journey started, Although I moved to mindset coaching, it started with sports. In 2018, I did a master's degree in coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
And loved it. Loved learning about coaching. Loved learning about the mind. I started putting my energy towards the mind as opposed to the body.
Yeah.
And
as you're getting older, I guess you have to. The body's not moving as freely.
It was maybe a pension decision. Can I be a 60-year-old PE teacher? But no, I loved it. And I loved learning about it. And I wrote a 40,000 word dissertation on it, and was lucky enough to get a first class honours master's degree in it. And from there I did my professional certification in coaching, and this is what I do full time now. I go into organisations and I support staff and support people be their best.
Perfect. Well, look, I guess for our listeners, obviously today is a little bit more different than some of our other episodes, and the reason why I actually think Ciarán's great to have in here. We actually had Ciarán in with our team at Alchemy a couple of weeks ago, and it was mind-boggling. Ciarán brought all the staff in bar myself. In hindsight, I probably should have been in the room. But, a big thing for us in recruitment is giving feedback. And, Ciarán gave a great session about giving feedback, to candidates in particular, obviously clients as well. And I just think there's a lot of value that this conversation will bring today. And I really think for people who are listening that within your companies, your team, if someone's underperforming, I actually think Ciarán's going to hopefully share a few nuggets here, with us on the pod, and hopefully it will help. So we'll get into it then.
Thanks, Connor. Looking forward to it.
Right, here we go. So I guess, can you describe your role and the team you work with and share why your audience finds your expertise valuable?
Yeah, I mean, with 2B Limitless, we've got a range of different programs we offer, but the most important thing is we help people be better. We ignite the fire back in people. A lot of people come to us because they're lacking a motivation, lacking a drive, lacking a purpose. And sometimes we're just that little twitch that can make things happen again. Remind people how good they are. We focus on the strengths. What's good about you? You look at a rugby team, for example, and we use this example a lot, but the size, the anatomy of everybody else, the somatotypes is all very different. But as a team collectively, they're wonderful. And they're stronger together, and that's what we want to. That's what we want to do. That's what we do with 2B Limitless. We remind people how good they are and get them to work with their strengths. Getting people to unlock their potential, to understand what they're good at, maybe understand what their weaknesses are, and actually, instead of focusing too much on developing that weakness, focus on the strength, amplify the strength, because somebody in the room can work on what you're weak at. And that's what we strive to do.
And how do you, for example, if I was coming through the door to you, how do you get the strengths out of the people? For example, how would you get it out of me? Like, what sort of is it questions you're asking, or is it tests, or?
So it depends what program. What program you signed up for, but the main one is the Unleash Your Strengths program we do. And for that one, you do a psychometric test where I had Clifton. I don't know if you'd heard of
Clifton Strengths.
Clifton Strengths. And you get your 34 strengths, and we work with you on that. We go in and work individually with you. We do a workshop with groups as well. That's one way. A very simple way that everyone at home can do with their teams, even their families. I do it with my own children. Is tell me when you were successful. What skills did you use? Who were you being? How can you transfer these skills to this particular challenge that you're facing? There's lots of ways we can unearth them strengths, and sometimes the simple ones are actually much better. And sometimes we believe the simple ones. If you do a psychometric test, for example, sometimes you've got some questions. Oh, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you actually just put it to somebody, tell me about a time you've been successful.
Yeah.
Boom. Tell me another time. Boom. And another time. Boom. What are we noticing here? What's the pattern? What behaviors are associated with success for you? That's your successful formula. Get out there and do it.
And so with that then, if someone's, any of our listeners or viewers now, if they're at home this evening, if they're driving home in the car, what can they be doing now? What sort of ways, you're just saying when you've been successful, or, how else can they unearth how to change things for themselves?
Happiness is one thing I always lean into. What's making you happy? When you're happy, you're positive. When you're positive, you're going in there with a smile on your face, a kick in your heel. You're driven. That fire, it's all about that fire. So many clients come to me because they're flat. They had such a vision of their life. Then they got, they went to college or university or whatever. They got a job, and the first couple of years in that job was great. They were loving it. Then there's the plateau. Then there's getting married. Then there's having children. Then there's just going to work to pay the bills. And that's what we have to remind ourselves, that we've got more to offer. Got more to offer. And finding what makes me happy really has a positive impact on that drive going into work, And that's as simple as your bucket, a simple task I do with people. You've got a bucket, and you've got things in there that make you happy. And there's things in there that don't make you happy. Put more in what makes you happy and take out what's not making you happy. And as simple and as silly as that may sound,
I think
these small things are effective. Because they're effective, people make an effort to do them. If you do them, it's going to work. It's going to move. You're going to start moving in the right direction. And that's all you want, is to move in the right direction.
Okay. And then obviously in recruitment, any recruitment company, whenever we get a phone call, it's never telling us that a candidate's very happy where they are. And unfortunately, we get a lot of calls in UAE, which would lead you to believe, obviously, that there's a lot of unhappy people in their jobs. So for those sort of people out there, what is usually driving this? How does staff well-being affect their performance, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. What's the knock-on effect for someone in part of it, maybe a CEO of a business, or even somebody within a startup? Actually, probably think it's more relevant for a startup where you might only have 5-10 people, and if you're running it, and I always say, a hole is better than an asshole sometimes in a company, but you need happy people, or else nothing's going to get done. So how do you go about that?
Well, the happier the people, the higher the productivity. The the less absent days staff are going to take. You know, the more hours people are going to be in. How do you get people happy? Well, you involve them. You give them autonomy. You trust them. You know, you want everybody in your workplace behaving like the boss, behaving like they own it.
Yeah.
If everyone's behaving like they own it, they've got an invested interest, they're internally motivated. The more motivated your staff are, the more you're going to get out of them. The more you get out of them, the more productivity you're going to see. Then everyone's happy. You know, if the cash is coming in at the top, if everyone's delivering at the bottom, then we're going to have a really positive working environment. Of course, that's not easy. Of course, that's not always the case. And of course, you're going to have different staff who have different needs.
Yeah.
And that's where clear management comes in. Good leadership, positive leadership, coaching leadership comes in. We do a program called Leader as Coach. It's very simple. We teach leaders how to be more coach-like. You know, I think the rate of success with coaching is phenomenal. Who was it? Fortune did a study of 500 companies. 788% increased productivity from using coaching skills and coaching styles.
Really, yeah.
And it's not just in the workplace. It's in your relationships, in, you know, even romantic relationships, you know, marriages. Being able to listen effectively, being able to ask the right questions, being able to be fully present, being able to be self-aware and disciplined and consistent. All of these skills are needed in the workplace for leaders to be successful.
I guess, as you said, you know, when clients or prospective clients, you know, come to you, and what are the common complaints or challenges? Like, what do you find in Dubai, for example? What's the sort of 3 or 4 common things which consistently you see coming back to you of things that people aren't happy with or want improvement in?
Great question. It's a question everyone always asks.
Okay, yeah, good.
From a male perspective, it's career progression.
Yeah.
I'm flat.
Yeah.
I'm bored. You know, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. But I'm going in and I feel as if I'm working in a factory. And they're not working in factories. They're working in busy jobs. But, you know, they're against the clock, the expectations. COVID has brought in lots of great things, but also lots of challenges. You know, nobody knows when to switch off anymore. Yeah. You know, people are burnt out. People are struggling.
Yeah, well, I think when people have, I know my staff, obviously, having their phone, you know, they're bringing their work home.
That's
it.
If
an
WhatsApp
email comes
groups.
through as WhatsApp,
WhatsApp groups.
We have lots of WhatsApp groups, as I'm sure you heard that day.
Well, WhatsApp groups are wonderful for communicating, but they're not good for staff wellness. People need to be able to switch off after hours, after 7 o'clock, for example. You know, after 4 o'clock on a Friday, Sunday. Allow people to switch off, because if they get to switch off, they come back happy. If they come back happy, boom, being productive again. So the career, back to your question, career progression is a big one. You know, people being flat, people not being valued, people just going in, checking in, doing what they have to do, just doing enough. And you know what? Doing enough, Conor, doesn't satisfy people. People have an ambition. We're all ambitious. We've all got a drive. You know, but the thing is, at what cost are we going to allow that to take over, where we're just being told what to do? Nobody wants to be told what to do. You know, trusting your staff is important. So giving that, again, that autonomy is so significant. It's a key skill. But a lot of leaders aren't doing it. And because of that, people are being micromanaged. Adults are being treated like children. Because of that, people are just flat in their work, going in, doing what they have to do and getting out. There's no reward. Of course, the reward is the financial reward. That's security. But you ask somebody, what's the best thing about your job? Financial security. What's the worst thing about your job? Possibly something along the lines of, well, I know what to expect. Yeah.
And I guess for someone, you know, playing devil's advocate, if you have someone who's an employee and is feeling all these challenges, you know, with their boss, like, how would you advise them to go about it? You know, obviously it's all well and good getting advice from someone like yourself, but if you were dealing with someone, what would you be saying? You need to confront your boss about this, or what's it?
First of all, you know, we don't give advice in coaching. We're unlocking potential that's already there. You have the answers. The client, the coachee, has the answers. So it's, what questions would I ask would be the question there. And the question I'd be asking is, what is it you want? What do you need to do to make that happen? What resources do you have at your disposal to move into step one? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to say yes to? What are you willing to say no to?
Yeah.
And sometimes just a little bit of accountability and throwing it back on people is like, makes them realize, maybe I'm complaining about nothing here.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most powerful, I actually did it last week with a client, UK client. He was complaining about an older gentleman in his work. And he's now the older gentleman's boss.
Okay, yeah.
The older gentleman wanted this position and didn't get it.
Yeah.
So there's a conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict. And instead of me going along with, I can see that this guy can be difficult, I just put it at him. I said, if he was your father, what would you say to him? I said, if you were him in 50 years' time, how would you feel? And his eyes lit up because I literally put him in his shoes to realize, what must it feel like that he didn't get that position? What must it feel like to be led by somebody 20 years younger, 20 years less experience? And instead of going, I'm going to tell him what to do, he was like, I need to understand him more.
Yeah.
I need to involve him more. I need to show some sensitivity and empathy. I need to make this guy feel a little bit more special than I'm making him feel. Mm-hmm. So for any leader out there thinking that coaches are going to go in and be on the side of the person so-called complaining, no. We're going to go in and get the best outcome for all parties.
It's a line, sometimes it's what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
That's it. You know, in this part of the world, again, probably not corporate examples I'm giving you, but from a personal perspective, lots of females coming in who are I don't mean just, but in their eyes, I'm just a housewife now.
Yeah.
I had so much vision in life.
Yeah.
I had children.
I see quite a lot here,
Yeah. And we got to get them working again. We got to get them out, showing off what they can do, expressing their talents.
Yeah.
You know, showcasing what they want to showcase, getting out there and being who they want to be.
It's a big piece. Obviously, so many, couples come out maybe, and the male is a senior finance guy now, but he met his wife when they were training to be an accountant, the exact same level, did very well, and then had kids, and then probably took 3 to 5 years out, and then trying to get back into work is a really big struggle here. There's probably a lot of other things at play here where companies just aren't as flexible, and that's the driving factor for a lot of things, because obviously the mother will be like, look, I need to collect my kid at 2, 3. I'll log back on at 5 p.m. and I'll probably work till 10 if they want me to work till 10. But unfortunately, there is still a very backward view, I think, from a lot of leaders, I guess, out here.
Yeah, no, there can be, and that will leads me nicely into my next group of people who approach us. And there's a flip here. That's those high achievers. Mm-hmm. That's companies like yourselves, Conor, who want to be better, who strive to be better, who's not willing just to do what it takes, but they want more from themselves. And they're willing to invest. They're willing to look at their teams and invest in their teams. They're willing to look at their talent and excel that talent and really dig in and look at their competitors and think, what are they doing that we can do better? Mm-hmm. What can we do differently? And that starts with investment. That starts with people learning and improving. If you've got a staff board who are being invested in, who are developing, who are progressing, they're going to be happy, which brings it back to one of the initial points of happiness. Going into an organisation where people are happy, there's going to be great productivity.
Yeah, just trying to keep people happy, and I guess that's the challenge.
No, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
And nobody's got the magic wand. However, we can not give up, and we can try and make things happen. We can take action.
Yeah, and so I guess again, trying to get this across the board for our listeners, people who are running a business and then people who are employees. So for people who are running businesses, and again, I probably go back to Alchemy when you came in, is that I was probably under the impression that things were going very smoothly. I think for the most part they are. However, obviously some of the feedback from some of the team was there's some things within the business that they wanted not changing, but just for us to be aware of. And that's, I guess, the reality with working in the UAE is that diversity is so big. There's so many different cultures, and that was a big learning curve for me anyway. Yeah. I think some of the males within our business, that you need to not be respectful, of course, but
wasn't that serious, but it was just little things that we need to pick up on.
That particular activity is about creating team agreements.
Yeah.
Now, agreeing, in anything, even as a household, marriage, a couple, agreements can be tough.
Yeah.
But you put 10 plus people in a room and try and make agreements. Of course, it's going to generate some conflict.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to generate some disagreement. But you know what it will generate? It will generate action, motion. It will generate understanding. It gives people a voice. What is it you like and what is it you don't like? And what are you willing to do? And again, it's not, this particular activity, it's not a case of, it's a facilitated conversation. It's not a blame game. It's not people going, oh, I don't like the way you do that.
Yeah.
That was part one of that activity. Now, the second part, after this particular cohort learned about questioning styles and listening styles, that same activity, the experience will be so much different because people will be asking better questions. People will be listening. It's called transformational listening. Usually people listen in level 1. There's level 1, level 2, level 3, and transformational listening. Transformational listening is where action takes place. And that's what we want to get people to do. So that particular activity, no company is everything going smoothly.
Yeah.
And if you're going to ask questions and if you're going to give autonomy and a platform for people to talk, of course we're going to hear things we don't like. You could say it to your partner, your wife.
Yeah, she go on for a while anyway.
If I was to ask my wife, is there anything I can do better? Oh, how long do I have?
Yeah.
How long do I have?
A piece of string.
That's it. So we have to be conscious and careful that with these questions, we need to be able to take it. We need to be able to express it constructively, that it's going to positively impact everybody. And just on that, sometimes the energy leaving a room like this can be flat by some people because they might have heard something they don't like.
Yeah.
But other people could be leaving the room high because they got to express something that they didn't get to express before.
Yeah.
So we just have to take both sides of it with a bit of pinch of salt.
And then look, obviously one big point, which is definitely the last 5 years seems to be such a hot topic, across the world, is mental health. A lot of people struggle, a lot of people get anxiety, and obviously with the rise of social media in particular, these things seem to be amplified a lot more than, when you and I are probably growing up. So I guess it's really more, what are the common signs to observe in staff of someone who may be struggling? I know it can be sometimes a bit of a blind illness, but, what are the sort of telltale signs sometimes?
Yeah, great question, Conor. I mean, the first thing I would say is a change of behaviour. Is team member, are they doing something different?
Yeah.
Are they clocking in a wee bit late? Potentially clocking in a wee bit early.
Yeah.
That could be a potential sign. But generally their mood, how about it being around the office? What emotional signs are you seeing? Are you seeing any anger? Are you seeing any aggression? Seeing any frustration? It's always a big one. Physical signs, like, you could see people crying in the office.
Yeah.
I've seen that before, and it's not nice. It's not nice. And, I think nobody, in today's day and age, nobody should be in a position where that has to happen at work.
Especially adults, yeah.
Absolutely. We've got to put the arm around all our team members and make sure that we've got a strategy in place here that it doesn't have to get to that level. But definitely the changes in behaviour is a big one.
If someone's listening to this now and they've noticed this with someone in their work, maybe a close friend or a close colleague, how's the best way to go about it? Because naturally people can be quite defensive, say nothing's wrong with me, especially males, I imagine, more so than females. But, how do people go about this best?
The first thing is to be there.
Yeah.
Not to force it, but just be there.
Yeah.
And you could take a soft approach.
Yeah.
And that could be like, how's your day going? How are you getting on? Create a platform for conversation. Now, nothing may happen today, but by asking the same question tomorrow and the next day and the next day, you might get a response. You could then you could push it a little bit to, I've noticed, and this is maybe where a leader would come in.
Yeah.
I've noticed that you're not meeting your deadlines. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Now, I've noticed that you're not meeting your deadlines. what's going on.
Yeah.
The tone has to be right.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
Big difference. Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to support? I've noticed you're not yourself recently. Is there anything I can do to help?
I think that's the big thing here, because given the cultural nuances of here, people have different agendas, different ways of, the reality is certain nationalities are more direct than others. And, unfortunately, the people who are on the wrong end of the stick can take things very badly. And that's a big complaint, we get from candidates, in this part of the world, just getting used to that, because it can be quite brash out there.
Yeah, and understanding, and it's very difficult in your particular situation because you're dealing with a completely massive range of personalities.
Yeah.
Cultures, and I'm guessing different types of industries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people want it direct, and some people want it, the kind of sensitive approach. The big thing in your area, Conor, is if possible, know what the other person needs and wants. And that can start with it. How do you want this? How would you like me to portray this message?
Yeah.
But definitely back to your question, the awareness, the observing the behaviors of somebody, observing their productivity. Has anything changed in their productivity? Or did they used to be really good at something and now not so much? Did they come in, 5 minutes early before and now they're 5 minutes late? Is there a reason for that? With the current traffic situation in Dubai, there's lots of people entering the workplace frustrated now.
Yeah. Traffic is...
we kind of need a little 30-minute buffer for people just to come around again, But and another thing would be social media.
Yeah.
What are people doing on social media? And what I mean by I don't mean like checking out people's social media, but is there anything you've noticed differently? Is some of your team out partying more so than they used to be? Maybe they've had a breakup.
Yeah.
Maybe something at home has changed. So observing these behaviours are key.
And then, obviously, on the back of COVID, this is really when I felt, wellness, mental health really did come to the fore. And I know from speaking with, a lot of our network who are HR professionals in particular, the HRD usually gets, or the head of people, head of staff usually gets put with the wellness programs. And obviously they've staff, they're trying to get them back into the office. And there's always going to be resistance from this, I think, especially people who are very used to working from home. So, what have you seen initiatives and strategies which a HR director now who's listening to this, or, anyone who's in the position that wants to try and push this agenda, or even someone staff who, has a very good relationship with someone senior in the business, wants to, put a case forward, like what have you seen of the strategies and initiatives that companies can take to improve wellness?
God, I've seen some great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And it's wonderful to see, the fact that well-being and wellness and perform and all this kind of stuff is being talked about in the workplace is great. It's a step in the right direction. Of course, we're not where we need to be, but we're moving there.
Yeah.
The hybrid working is a big one.
Yeah.
People like it. And if that's taken away from people, that's going to be a problem.
We actually see it now where certain people will not move if they're in a hybrid culture and they have a job offer for somewhere where it's 5 days a week, no remote working, they'll actually decline an offer at the end. I think this is where I see the big thing for UE maybe in the next 18 months. It's not going to be quick anyway, but 18 months to 3 years where companies, if they want to retain talent or get the best talent, and we've one client in particular, a very big client, I think they're really resting on their name, thinking they're still going to attract the right candidates. And unfortunately, mid to senior candidates, the reality is a lot of them will have kids, they'll have drop-offs, even with the storms now, kids can't go to school, it's home learning. And if the companies don't have any flexibility, they're going to be calling me or Alchemy or whatever agency it is, and they're going to be gone. So I think this is a big issue. I think
it is.
Big companies.
And the way it's solved, if it can be solved, is given choice.
Yeah.
Choice for me, and that goes back to trust, and that goes back to autonomy and control. The more autonomy and control and trust there is, it's a wonderful concoction for a successful working environment. And you're right. The school drop-offs, the pickups. sports, after school sports, and all this kind of stuff. And it's needed. We need if we want talent, we need to move with talent.
Yeah. And from my side, I'd be very anti fully remote.
Yeah.
I think that's, in my opinion, bonkers, or I wouldn't entertain it for a day, because, if you're not seeing it work, you can never get promoted.
I agree with you. And I personally wouldn't like it myself. In fact, I prefer to go into an office.
Yeah, exactly.
The days I'm at home doing admin are not my happiest days.
Yeah, they're not good days.
So that's one thing, is given this freedom.
Yeah.
There's so much also support services available now, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies have on-site counsellors, psychologists in some places, and they bring coaching companies in to help develop people. Again, if there's a support network there, so if you're down and you've got somewhere to go, or if you're not down and you've got somebody talking to you to make you better, and what I mean by better is not to fix you, but to amplify your strengths, to progress you as a person, you're going to feel good. You're going to be thinking, this company is investing in me. I'm happy here.
Yeah.
I'm happy here. So training and development is a big one that companies are doing. A simple example is coffee catch-ups.
Yeah.
Lovely small little thing companies do. Free lunch.
Yeah.
Small little touches like that make people happy, and the small things sometimes can go further.
They all add up.
They all add up.
The big thing I would say to any business out here is that if you just do these little things, because trust me, the vast majority of companies are not doing these things for their employees. Yeah. So, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's just doing little things.
It's not. One company I was in, Conor, not so long ago, had a meditation room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's meditation stroke mindfulness. But you could go into that room and you could just sit.
Mm-hmm.
Rule number 1, which I loved, no mobile phone.
Yeah.
Just go in and spend some time to yourself. A nice dark room, a couple of lights, and just close your eyes.
I'm sure a lot of my team would like that once a client pulls an offer or a candidate rejects an offer.
Trust comes in here, because if you've got a staff member who's in this room
constantly
having a sleep, then there's a problem, but I would say a big thing is social connection.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a contradiction here to what we said first about staying at home. Social connection is very important. So organizations that put on events.
Yeah.
And these events, yes, over here in Dubai, they're pretty fancy, these events, but they don't have to be fancy.
Yeah.
And I love what you do, Conor, with the outings that you do and the stuff. That's so important, and it's great to see. It's great to see people thinking outside the box and going above and beyond. Yeah. If you've got a leader in your company that's going above and beyond, you're going to try and do everything they can and I can to if I was working in that company, to perform, to show this person how good and how happy I am in this environment.
I guess the question we'd always have is, especially in this space, for someone, if you meet someone, especially a high achiever, if someone comes into you and says, hey, look, I'm performing quite well, they might fancy themselves a little bit, but, they want to get better. How do they go from good to very good? How do you get that out of them? Like, if you were to give a high level overview of how do you get people to the next level?
Well, from performance to high performance is pretty simple. There's one word there: consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Excelling, meeting expectation, and going above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But consistency is the key. So if you have a member of your team who thinks and feels that they're in that bracket, well, look.
We've 7 of them, I'd say.
You got to look at the consistency of this performance. There's an activity I do, and I'm not sure if I did it with you guys, but it's a starter activity where I would ask a question. I said, would you employ yourself? Stand over here if you'd employ yourself, and stand over here if you wouldn't. Of course, everyone would say, yeah, that's okay. Let's break this down a little bit. Would you employ yourself today? Would you employ yourself yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
And then it opens up a bit of a debate for, well, I didn't really deliver my best yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Of course they didn't. Yeah. Because we always don't. We're
not robots.
We're not. But the reality is, in your first day in that job, your first week, you probably would employ yourself. So how can we have more good days? Mm-hmm. That's the key. What do we have to do? We have to make sure that, we've got clear expectations, that everyone's on board where we want to get to. Clear goals, clear targets. There's a thing we do in coaching called your corporate athlete. Mm-hmm. How can I show up at my best? Well, what is my best? Well, my best, is actually a good night's sleep the night before.
Yeah.
You know, my best is I have a good breakfast, or my best is I get up and I do yoga or I do exercise or something in the morning. Your diet, your sleep, you know, your human connections, the people you see, all of this stuff is part of your corporate athlete. And if you're going into the workplace, and if your corporate athlete rating is high consistently, you're going to deliver. You're going to be a high performer.
And what would you say for, you know, people who had kids, for example, recently had kids, and, you know, they went from a very, not a selfish way of life, but a life where, you know, they're in complete control of their weekends, they're getting good night's sleeps, and now it's maybe been turned upside down with the arrival of a newborn. And, you know, again, maybe they're high achievers in work, or maybe they're not, but they've noticed they're really struggling now in the workplace, that they're not as sharp as they were. They've obviously got different aspirations or responsibilities, but at the end of the day, obviously, when you have a child, you know, if anything, you're more determined or more hungry to be successful. But how would you advise that person if they had, you know, struggling for sleep? How would you go about that to say?
Well, again, it's not advice.
Yeah.
You know, so the first thing I'd be thinking of is, how can I make this person feel special? So if I had a client who felt that they were underachieving at work, I said, well, tell me about this, blah, blah, blah. And what's the reason for this? Oh, because I was up 3 times with my baby last night. I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. What a beautiful thing you've just done. You're up 3 times, you know. Tell me about you being a mom.
Yeah.
Tell me how this feels. And you would just see the eyes light up. So what we do is we'd shift the energy to, instead of focusing somewhere where she's underperforming, or he, it'd be somewhere where they're overperforming and overachieving, and we celebrate that and we enjoy that. And sometimes we just need to take a bit of a chill pill and say, you know what, I'm being too hard on myself here.
Yeah.
It's a tough time. I went through it for 4 years.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
absolutely not. There was an overlap. You know, my firstborn Sophia was 2 when my son Harry came along. So we literally had an overlap of 4 years where it was nothing. And then we bizarrely found this thing called Netflix that we're really enjoying now.
Yeah.
So we get 1 hour a day where we get to sit down. But, you know, joking aside, it's very important that we look out for staff like this. And we certainly do not be pointing the finger and saying you're underperforming at work. Because if you're underperforming at work, it's potentially because you're overperforming somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do? What's the next step? You know, well, the next step, the reality is an awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, a communication level. You know, with the leader, we need that transparency, that clear communication with the line manager of, you know, I didn't have a good night's sleep last night.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm going to be late tomorrow, or I need to work from home tomorrow, stuff like that, you know. Of course, we can start working on that corporate athlete again and working on sleep patterns and, you know, what's an acceptable level of sleep where you can perform at this level. What are you cooking for yourself? It's just a big one that comes up with moms that put so much time into preparing for other people and not themselves.
Yeah.
So we have to look within. We need to think, what makes me tick? What makes me work? What fuels me?
And to put it back on you then, when you were going through those years, 0 to 4, as you mentioned, you know, how did you get through it? Like, was there anything you can remember? Or is maybe you don't want to remember some of those days?
I think, you know, you have to remind yourself of why you're here.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you're a dad, Conor, the most important job in your life is being the best dad you can be.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to here. So everything else is second to that. Now, of course, you could argue, well, I can't lose my job or else I can't pay for my school fees, can't pay for blah, 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 blah. Of course. But if you're in the right environment, if you're in the right working environment, the right people, it's not going to get to that transparency there. But for me, going to bed really early when I wasn't on shift was one. So let's say going to bed at 7 p.m. and then that I might get 5 hours.
Yeah.
If I got 5 hours, then we can go. It was a massive realization that we don't need any, you know, we think before children come along that we need 8 hours sleep. No, we don't.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, we can manage. So one thing is in the realization that I can do this, you know, and then you will find yourself going into work trying to be your best anyway.
Yeah.
because you want to be your best. You've got a new kick, you've got a new step, you've got new fire in your belly, you've got a new purpose, you've got a mouth to feed. You're so excited to be your best. My biggest ambition, my biggest drive in life is for my children to be proud of me. That's all I want. So if we're going into a working environment, and if that target is part of me delivering at work, find out where this passion comes from, and find out how can I work with this person. From a leader's perspective, ask the right questions. What can I do to support you? Boom.
Good. And then, I guess before we get into some of the lighter questions, which I know you're looking forward to, I was quite keen. I know you've wrote a book, and then also just give it an overview of the different services you offer as well to clients. Because as I said, we've worked with you, and the feedback has been excellent from my team, and we've got a few difficult team members, and when I've seen them impressed, they know who they are as well. I know you've done a very good job. So yeah, just quite keen to get the word out from your side.
Yeah, look, I absolutely love making a difference. And thank you for that kind feedback. It's very generous.
Yeah, it's all earned.
There's different workshops that we offer. Namely, Leader as Coach is one of the most popular ones, and that's the one where we go in and we train people to be coaches.
Yep.
This is not a certified coaching program, but it is a program where I'm doing it with Clyde & Co. this week on Thursday, where it's a 3-hour workshop. It can be 3, it can be 1 day, it could even be 2 day.
With lawyers there, you'll have your work cut out with all them, I'd say. Anyway.
But the key is that we're teaching leaders to be more coach-like in their behaviour.
Yeah,
it's great, really, really powerful. Unleash Your Strengths is a big one, and that's what they do, the Clifton Strengths Test. And we work on their strengths with that. The Barrier Breaker Bootcamp one is one I love. And that's going into organisations and getting people to learn about each other, learn about themselves, and learn how the other people want them to be. And a really great activity I get to do there is I just opened the room and I said, tell me about a great leader you had, purposely in front of the leaders in the room. But what's happening there is that by this person expressing about a great leader,
they can see what they want.
They can see what they want. And that's an example of how we can be more coach-like in our approach and less directive. Obviously, I did my feedback facilitating formula with you, and that is how to make feedback developmental and not judgmental. How can we use coaching skills to give accurate, concise feedback? Feedback is only good if it's taken on board. A lot of times, I've wrote 40,000 words on this. A lot of times when feedback is taken negatively, it's not used because there's a sulking match.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a barrier.
A lot of sulkers out there.
So we have to be very conscious and precise in how we deliver feedback. And again, a great question is, how would you like me to do this? What will work for you? What has worked well for you in the past for this? And the simple model there is a meeting before the feedback. Give the feedback, and a meeting after the feedback. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. The perfect public speaking system is one of my favourites. I, probably similar to yourself, Conor, growing up in the Irish education system, didn't get much of an opportunity to learn how to speak in public.
Agreed.
And in the line of work I do now, I'm obviously doing it lots, and I'm speaking in front of 150 people next month, and part of me is anxious and nervous. And of course I am, because that's part of the formula. So I used to have lots of pain points associated with public speaking, and I invested heavily in developing and learning the skills, and I want to share that. So I designed my own program based on my own fears and my own upbringing and the skills of public speaking. So I love that program because the transformation in people, seeing them come into the room all timid and shy to actually presenting in front of an audience is just phenomenal. So I absolutely love that one. And then, from a one-to-one base, we go into organisations, Conor, and this can all be done via Zoom, but it's wonderful if we can base ourselves in the organisation for the day. Once a month I go in and people come in and out of the office and have a one-to-one session with me. So instead of the company having a full-time executive coach, to bring me in once a month.
And I know I keep going back to, but I think definitely for small businesses, I think having the staff, having an outlet to speak to someone else as opposed to coming to me, for example, or I just think there is a lot of value. And again, I've seen this firsthand. So yeah.
No, it's really, really good. And again, if people are given a non-judgmental platform,
Yeah.
just to let off some steam, and if then a professional is placed to facilitate this conversation where it's not just a chit chat and get whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's work on this.
Yeah.
Let's put it back on this person.
No, it's a great thing because it's not one of these things Friday night down in the pub where people
Exactly.
it's in an alcohol-free setting in an office.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value there.
And there is, and just on that, it's important also that organisations are getting the right type of coaches as well. It's a very wishy-washy industry, and you look over your right shoulder and you buy and you've got 10 coaches, but are they certified coaches is the big question. Are the ICF certified or from the Association of Coaching? So it's important that people are qualified coaches to be doing this, because it's important that we hold the industry up with high esteem, and we recognise the positive impact it can have.
Yeah.
But if we just go and don't do a research on what the coach and who the coach is and what the experience is and what the qualifications are, then we could get a very different experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, reputation is everything.
Exactly.
So, okay, so on to the quick fire round. Questions ready? Ready to go?
All good.
So look, we're just keen to get to know you a little bit more as a person. So if you had 24 hours left in the world, how would you spend it?
Yeah.
Not watching Cavan GA anyway.
Oh, well, after that. I would have to use the car from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And I would hop in the car.
Yeah.
And I would go back to all the happy memories I have as a child with my family. From the day I was born to now. And I would sit there and I'd be a fly on the wall and just smile.
Yeah.
And I can even picture this now. But there's a second bit to this, Conor. I'd also want the car to take me into the future.
Yeah.
So I could see my own children.
Yeah.
To see what they're going to do in life.
Yeah.
Be proud of them. And to be that fly on the wall and just to sit there and smile and see my children thrive and be the best they can be.
Very well answered. Oh, man. And then, what's the one quote or line that you've read, that's changed your perspective in life?
I think there's lots. It's hard to just put in one, but I would just say definitely something along the lines of failure is an opportunity. I think growing up in the environment that we grew up back in the 80s and 90s and noughties in Ireland.
80s, 90s,
there was a fear of failure. Fear of failure. And I'm all about getting people to get out there and try. What's the worst that can happen? And what we can do is we can learn from this. I'm a big believer of experiential learning, Kolb's 1984 model, where we do something, we refine it, we do it again and we refine. We learn. We don't always have to succeed. In fact, we can't always succeed. There can't be a winner in everything.
Yeah.
But if we were afraid of failure, we wouldn't do things. So look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, you learn a lot more when you lose, I
Absolutely.
find, especially in sports. So, and then going back to your childhood, what was the dream job back then? Was it a PE teacher when you were a young fella?
The dream job, I think, for many young boys in Ireland and across the world, especially today with the money, would have been a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Definitely a professional footballer. Representing Ireland.
Yeah.
In football or in athletics was my goal. I used to be a cross country runner and track and field runner, and my target was the Olympics, and that didn't happen. And the second job for a failed sportsman is a PE teacher.
Yeah, of course.
And I have to say, the day I got my degree in sports science and then my PE teaching degree, it was one of the proudest moments of my life.
Yeah.
Achieving. As I say, I struggled in school and getting that degree to have a job that was my dream job was just phenomenal. And of course, you grow out of it, and we all develop, and we want more. But at the time, I was so proud of myself. So my dream job was definitely a professional sports person, but the second one was a PE teacher. I'm proud to say that I've done that for 18 years.
Good man. And then, obviously, you're many years away from retirement. But when that day does come, is there anywhere you want to move to in particular, back to Cavan, or you're gonna set up shop here, stay here for a long time, or what's
the weather in Cavan's going to have to improve?
Yeah, I think
the weather in
so. Well,
Ireland.
global warming now, you never know.
I love the English countryside. My wife is from south of England, and I love the country village in England. I love the kind of, I think when you go into an English country village, it takes you back 50 years, maybe more. And that one shop, one pub, one post office, one church, all this kind of, I love it. And that's going to be our spot. That's going to be our spot. So that sense of community as well.
Yeah, it's all about that.
Yeah. So I think that's where I'm going to. Of course, I'd love a bit of a summer place as well.
Yeah.
I think, and if I was being really greedy, I'd love a place in Ireland too.
Yeah, exactly. Look, let's listen to the boss, I guess. She's ruling roost.
That's it. But no, definitely the small little village, away from the hustle and bustle is where I can see myself.
And then, look, I guess, thank you for coming on today. But, for our listeners, if people want to reach out to you and connect, what's the best way? Is it LinkedIn, Instagram, or how best to connect with you?
LinkedIn, Ciarán McBreen, Instagram at CMB Coach McBreen, and my website, cmbcoachingandtraining.com, and at 2blimitless.com.
Perfect. Well, look, on behalf of all Alchemy Search, I know the team have loved having you, and we're already looking forward to our next session with you, going through the commandments again with all the team. But look, thank you for coming in, and I'd strongly ask any of our listeners, if you are struggling or want to get a bit of advice or a bit of help, look no further, as Ciarán's done an excellent job with my team. So
Conor,
thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Best luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you.